Okay, so this is what we're going to be building. This is the Netflix application. So if we scroll down, you can see it's pretty much the Netflix homepage. And we're not just going to be skinning the homepage. What we're going to be doing, we're going to be using React Router, so we can have like a sign in, a sign up. And you can see we have different components. And if we sign in, you'll get the same Netflix experience. So it'll ask who's watching. I click on my profile, and as you can see, we have a Netflix homepage. And what we see here is a bunch of series, and if we switch to films, it gives us the films. We can switch back to series, and then we have a search up here. Now, if we use this search right here, we can search for, say, Family Guy, and it will filter down, and we can see which one we have chosen. So if I click on like Family Guy, or South Park, or Arrested Development, or The Office, or let's search for a film. So let's say The Prestige. Let's see, we'll click off The Office, we'll click on Films, search for The Prestige. Somewhere here it is. Now this is using Fuse.js, and it's a nice little module that allows us to live search an array, which is cool. And you can see, yeah, we have a fairly nice looking browse page, which is near enough identical as to what you see on Netflix.com. So the next thing I want to show you is, well, we have to speak about a bit more about the technologies we're going to be using. I'll do that as a quick overview. Actually, you know what, let's just talk about it now. We're going to be using React, we're going to be using React Router, style components, and we're going to be using a design pattern that you may have come across in React called compound components. In addition to those technologies, we're going to be looking at Firebase, and if you're not familiar with Firebase, don't worry, because I'm going to be going over Firebase. There's not that much initial setup as apart from basically the config that Firebase give you. And we're going to be creating some nice cool hooks, custom hooks, so authentication, pulling data, and that's going to be the overview of Firebase in terms of what we're going to be using it for. And lastly, I just want to quickly show you here the sign out. So we've got full authentication. If you try go to the browse page, you'll just get redirected here. So that's authentication within React Router. So yeah, we're going to be looking at React, compound components, style components, and then Firebase. So you will need to get set up with Firebase, and I'll walk you through that. That's fine. In terms of, let's figure this out, we need to look at application architecture because this is a fairly big application. So let's jump into that now. So just before we look at the architecture, let's just take one more quick view as to what we'll be building. So we've seen the home page. I wanted to show you this because we're going to be building a bunch of different components. This is going to be an accordion component where you can click it and it moves down and moves up. So that's going to be pretty cool. We're going to learn how to build an accordion. Then we're going to be doing the sign in, which is a component itself. The sign up, which is going to utilize that component. And then you get the browse page, which is nice. Then it works mobile responsively, so that's on a tablet. Likewise, when you open up a feature, you're going to be able to have that responsively. And we're going to be able to play videos. So here it is. When you click play, we're just going to have a nice video playing. Feel free to bring your own videos and drop them in the public/videos folder, which we will be looking at shortly. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I can't wait to get into this, but quickly let's look at the architecture because I feel like that will really help because, like I said, it's a really big application that we're going to be building. So there we are. Let's take a look at the architecture. So let's take a look at the architecture. So first things first is, a lot of people always ask me when I'm doing tutorials, how do you come about the structure of your folders and how do you conclude on where you want to place files? Well, it's not something that is set in stone for me. Basically, I will create folders that I feel are necessary to hold a bunch of files, same as you would do on Windows or a Mac. You know, if I have, well, generally mine are really bad, I'll name folders like stuff or things to do, and then I just shove stuff in there. But in this case, like, it's kind of self-explanatory. We have hooks, pages, utils, fixtures, helpers, lib, components, containers, context, and constants. And then on the left side, we have public, images, and videos. So we have this huge bar at the top, this yellow one called source, src. Everything below is going to live in there. Likewise with public, everything below, including images and videos, just being those two, live in public. And that's going to be pretty much it. We're going to have our components, containers, context, constants, hooks, pages, utils, fixtures. And I feel like this splits it up nicely, so I'm going to be going with this structure. You know, it could be subject to change, but let's see. I think this is at least 99% there. And this is going to be the structure of our components. Just as an example, we have components, and in this case we have card. So all the other ones that don't have a yellow background, let's just ignore those for now and let's focus on card. So within card, we have a styles folder, we have an index.js, which is going to be our component, and then we have a card.js. Now we only have one file in the styles folder, and that's fine. The reason I created a styles folder in this case is simply because if people want to come and add additional styles, they can do it in the styles folder. I don't really want people modifying what I've already built in the compound components unless it's absolutely necessary. And if they choose to go edit that file, that's completely fine. But if they're making certain modifications or extending this out, you know, giving it more functionality, I would prefer them to add it in a separate file, because these files already are fairly large. So I think, you know, it's nice to have a styles folder. You don't have to have a styles folder, but if you're following on with this tutorial, I would recommend it. And this is how the application is going to work. We have a user. The user is going to hit the application, which is going to be the front end application, and that's going to be connected to Firebase. That Firebase application is going to go ahead and, well, when it loads up, it's going to say, Firebase, can I have the data? Now initially it's not going to do that. I mean, we can make it do that if we wish, and maybe we will do that. But what we want to do is we want to call Firebase when a user either signs in, signs out, signs up, or is on the browse page. The browse page being where you look at the films and series. And when you get to that page, we want to hydrate the application with all the data that we have in our Firestore. So that's it. That's the application architecture. Next, let's look at some of the dependencies that we're going to be using in the code. We've seen the application, but let's look at some of the dependencies, and we'll do that right now. So these are the dependencies. There's not too many. I just thought it would be a good idea to just walk through each particular one. We're going to start out with having React Testing Library as a dependency, and as a matter of fact, you can move that into dev dependencies, because actually let's talk about that. Dev dependencies. There we go. Yep. What's this saying? Duplicate object. Where is that? Oh, here we go. Okay. So we can just steal that, get rid of this, come down to dev dependencies. I'm just going to put it in here. Where should I put it? Put it there. Okay, so anyhow, reason I put the testing library React in the dev dependencies is because when the final bundle runs, I want it to pull the modules from the dependencies. I don't want it from the dev dependencies, because I'm only pretty much using React Testing Library as a developer to make sure my code works. And we'll be doing testing, so that's going to be good. Anyhow, dependencies, we're going to have Firebase, Fuse.js, and that's going to allow us to do the live search. Normalize CSS, so that's going to be a CSS reset, which would be really helpful. You don't have to use this, but I always recommend resetting your CSS prior to starting any project. We'll be using React, of course, React DOM, React Router, React Scripts, and Style Components. So the main ones you got to worry about is React, Style Components, and Firebase. That's pretty much it. So that's going to be the packages that we're going to be using. Next, I think it's probably time we started working on some components. but we need to install some sort of framework to get this going. So let's start with let's go ahead and install Create React App. So let's do that now. Okay, so I've opened a terminal here. I'm using ZSH on my Mac. If you're on Windows, you can look at using PowerShell, or even I think it's Git Bash it's called. I think you can use that. We're going to be using Yarn for this. Now you can use npm and you can switch in and out, so don't worry too much if you're using npm and I'm using Yarn. It's pretty much going to be the same. We're going to be using Create React App as I previously mentioned. So to get started, we're just going to say Yarn Create React App, and I'm going to call this Netflix. So before I hit this, you can use npm for this. Head over to Create React App on GitHub. There's an npm command. You can run this. By the way, where it says code on the left, that's just a folder that I've called code, and I hold most of my projects in there. Feel free to install this anywhere, but pick an appropriate name. Netflix seems reasonable for this because that's what we're going to be rebuilding. Then hit enter, and then let Yarn do its thing. It's going to fetch the packages, it's going to install all this stuff, and then once this is done, what we're going to do, we're going to open this up in VS Code. I do have a video on my VS Code setup, so feel free to check that out. More than likely I'll do a new one shortly because I tend to change it so much, but this is just installing all the packages that we need. So I do prefer Yarn. If you're using npm, you know, that's fine. At my workplace we use npm, but I just seem to enjoy using Yarn more. I'm more affiliated with the commands than I am with npm at this particular point. And is this done yet? Yarn remove? Come on, hurry up. Alright, let's see. I don't really want to cut the video because then if people happen to, I don't know. Here we are. So as it says here, we suggest you begin by typing cd Netflix. Okay, your wish is my command. And then it gives me all the files and folders in here. That's something I've already got set up. You may not see this. If you don't see this, click ls and you'll get something similar. Basically what it did ls.la, which is just going to list stuff out, but let's just set ls. So we have node modules, public, yarn.lock. You may not have that if you used npm. You'll have npm lock file instead. And now pretty much what we're going to do is I'm just going to type C, and that's going to open up a code editor for me. So if I hit C, it's going to go ahead, open this up. I'll full screen this and we can start getting to work. No, start with a pop-up. First things first, so when I install Create React App, generally what I do, I start by removing and editing things. So I'm going to get rid of the README, we don't need that. Let's see what we need here. We'll get rid of the logo, we don't need that. Get rid of the service worker, get rid of the setup tests, index.css, yeah, we don't need that. App.test, we don't need you. App.css, you can go also. Public, let's get rid of the logos. Manifest, robots.txt, no thank you. Favicon, no, you're good. And then in public, go ahead, create 2 new folders, images, videos. Now, I don't want to dwell on you adding images and videos in here, so if you just head over to my GitHub now, there's a link on the screen, it's also in the description. Download this particular repo and then just take out the images and videos and copy and paste them in here. So you can either overwrite the images and videos folder, or what you can do is I don't know, copy them individually, whatever you want to do. But you need the images and videos there because we want them to display when we're creating certain components, and it's a real pain. I created these all in Photoshop in terms of cropping them and everything else, and I don't want you to have to do all that because it took me a few hours. So go ahead and do that. I'll let you do that now and be back shortly. Okay, so now you've got the images and videos, we can go into the index.html. Let's just clean this up a bit. Hopefully everyone can see this. If not, do zoom in. I'm going to get rid of the link, the manifest, the comment. We can change the title to Netflix. What's this? Description, we don't need that. We don't need the theme color. We're going to keep the viewport that allows us to do the scaling when it comes to responsiveness. Favicon you can keep. If you went onto the GitHub, you would have seen that there's a favicon.ico, and I've put the Netflix one in there. Div-ID root, we need that because that's where React is going to inject our code that we build. So that looks fairly clean to me. Once that's done, let's have a look. This is more personal preference, I guess, but I'm just going to rename this here app.js to app. Well, just app, lowercase app.js. So make sure you do that, and then once you've done that, I'm going to clean this up in here. I'm going to remove the app.css because that doesn't exist, nor does the logo. Then what we're going to do is we're going to get rid of the logo. Basically going to get rid of everything in here, and then we'll just put hello for now. Okay, that looks good. Move that, zoom in, and see here where it's export default app. I don't really like doing this too much, so I generally delete that, and then I come up here and say export default, and it's just a bit cleaner in my opinion. Feel free to go ahead and do as you wish. You can have the export lower down. I'll save this. One more modification in index.js. We need to get rid of index.css. And even though I just lowercase this, you can still import it as a default with app from app. We can just get rid of that, put app there. We don't need the service worker. We're going to take off strict mode. We don't need that. Let's see, we'll just put that here. Let's put that onto one line. We don't want the service worker, so we'll get rid of that, and your file should look something like this. Also, another tip that you can basically use here is with React DOM, you can either say give me the default, or you can remove this and just get render. So I'm just pulling out render, and I'm just going to say render this. I don't know, I quite like that, it's much nicer. So yeah, we get the default here, that's fine. And generally speaking, when I do this, normally I mess up, and I've either done that somehow. No, I think we're good. I think we're good so far. So what I want to do next is open up a terminal. I've just hit Command T. Command T in VS Code gives you a terminal. And do you remember we looked at the packages? And there was a few that we needed. So we needed Firebase, Fuse.js, Normalize. What else did we need? Style components. So we can say yarn add styled components, and hopefully you can see that yarn add style components. So I'm going to hit enter. That's going to add style components. Let's see what else we got here. So that's going to install, and you'll see your package.json change. Now this has to go in the dependencies and not dev dependencies, because it's a dependency that we need for our application. So are we done? Are we done? Yes, we're done. So I'll clean that. Command K if you're on a Mac. I'm not too sure what that is on Windows. And then I'm going to say yarn add Firebase, and I believe that should give us Firebase. If not, we can always go and look at the module or the package, depending on what people call it. So style components has come in. That's good. Let's see what we get for Firebase. I think the Firebase version was 7.19.1. So if that comes in at 17.9.1, I know we're good. And also, for people who want to be able to open up the terminal, I think it's Command T. I have turned on the Command T toggle. And again, I'll leave that in the description so you can look at my settings for VS Code. I know people are going to ask me what theme this is. I'm not too sure. It's in the description probably. There we are, Firebase. Good. 17.91. Okay, so next, this one I'm just going to take a shot at. I think it's Fuse.js, like that. And if it comes in at 6.41, I know it's that particular one, because I've been working on Fuse on the Netflix application you see here, but I can't remember the name as to what it was. But by the way, don't guess like I do. Just search your stuff and it'll tell you how to install it. I think we're good. I think what we're going to start out with is just building a component and showing you how compound components work. Fuse 6.41, perfect. Lastly, let's add normalize. So this is a tricky one. Let's see if this one comes in at 8.01. If not, we'll have to Google it, that's fine. I'm going to keep this video as raw as possible. I'm not going to take out any errors or anything like that, so you may be here a while. Go grab a cup of tea, coffee, follow along, and yeah, just enjoy it. There's going to be a lot to learn, and if you are a junior developer, what did that come in at? Yeah, that looks good. Normalize is good. So anyhow, yeah, if you're a junior developer, mid developer, is that the word, or midway? Who knows? I don't really like titles, but if you're just learning stuff like this to you know, kill some time, fair play. But yeah, I think we've got all the dependencies we need. Lastly, actually, we can. Should we install Create React App? Not Create React App. What we're gonna do? No, let's leave testing till the end. I don't want to. Testing library. Oh, it comes in already. So I wonder why this comes in as a dependency. We can take a look at that later. So it's weird. With Create React App, it must be tree shaking this, and by tree shaking, it's saying, even though it's a dependency, I don't want this. But it's strange that the testing library for React testing library is coming in as a dependency. That's weird. Nevertheless, we can look at testing later on. We're going to be here a few hours. So let's get going. Let's do yarn start. npm, I think it's npm start. Let's see what we're going to get. There's already one running on another part. So if you get this, that's fine. I forgot to kill the other one. So I'm just going to click no, and when I was doing the demonstration, so I'm just going to say, okay, what's running on this 3000? 3000 is 7603. Okay, well, guess what? I don't want you anymore. You can go. Yarn start. And then it should be like, boom, come on. Give us it. Here we are, we're starting. It's starting. And also, one thing I found with this particular course and just tutorials I've done before is check this console here that you don't have errors, but also if you're using Google Chrome, you want to check that console as well. So let's go ahead. I'll pull this over. It's opened it on another screen. Let's see. I think what we can potentially do is, let's open this full screen. As you see, it's working. We have hello, that's good. So we know it's working. We've done application architecture, and if we just like think about what we're going to be building, I want to build a Jumbotron. So a Jumbotron is essentially it's like the left and the right of what you see on the homepage of Netflix. And basically what it is, it's some marketing or saying, look, this is what we have as a product. We have these films, these series, we work on mobile, blah 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 blah. Now I just want to bring your attention to what it actually looks like. So if I just open up netflix.com, let's see. I hope, oh, it's going to take me into the browse. Okay, I'll have to blur this out. I don't really want to show all the Peppa Pig I've been watching. Let's see. Sign out. Yep, leaving soon. Come on. It's a bit slow. I'm not too sure. This is the Jumbotron. So this is what we're going to be building. And this is the FAQs. We're going to be building the up and down. So yeah, that's what we're going to be building. So let's take a look at the Jumbotron now. Quickly before we do the Jumbotron, one thing I do want to do is install React Router. So do yarn add React Router DOM. Hit enter and that'll install. Okay, so once that's installed, what I want you to do is I want you to open up Source. And within Source, create a folder called Fixtures. Now create two files. We're going to be using these files for not only the Jumbotron, but for FAQs too. And these are just going to be files that store data, so I'm going to call it jumbo.json. The next one is going to be called FAQs.json, and they'll make more sense in a second. Let's close down app, we can close down index, and we have Jumbo, nothing in there, right? Now I want you to head over to my GitHub page, which is github.com/KyleHadwin. Feel free to hit a follow, and I have these repos here pinned on my GitHub, and there's a bunch of other repos in here if you're interested in React and you're interested in JavaScript. Go into this one here what says Netflix, so click on that. And once you're in here, this is all the code that I spoke about. It's also in the description. That's what we're going to be building. My YouTube channel's there. Feel free to subscribe and click on source. Once you've clicked on source, go into fixtures. I'll zoom in even more here. So it's fixtures you want to go into, and then you have FAQs and Jumbotron. And let's take a look in Jumbo. So in Jumbo you have an array with 3 objects, and basically this is just saying a title, subtitle, image, alt, direction, and this is what we're going to be using for the home page. We're going to say this is our feature that we want to display to users who hit the home page. So I'm just going to jump back into here and just paste it in. You can type that if you wish, you can change it. We've basically got keys and we've got the value. So within JSON you have an array, and generally you have objects, and with the objects you have key values. So the key values are saying this is a title, I'm going to access this particular data by the title, and then that's going to be the value. Likewise with the one below it, and then the one below it. We jump back to FAQs. I'm just going to get this one as well. See, it saves us typing this out manually, so copy that, go into FAQs, hit save. Cool. So now we're done with that. We can open up the sidebar again. We have fixtures, FAQs, Jumbo. So what we're going to do next is we're going to start working in app.js, and we will eventually escape this, but right now I think it's good that we start working in this. And we're going to be using all sorts of stuff, so pages, containers, everything else, components. But right now we're going to create our first component and get used to using compound components. So in the source, create a new folder called components. So within components we're going to go ahead and create a new folder, and we're going to call it Jumbotron. And just be extra careful with the spelling, because I've misspelled this so many times. Once you've done that, we have to follow the architecture diagram, which you can see, right here. Actually, you know what? I have the architecture diagram right now. You see right there, we have Jumbotron, styles, index.js, and within styles we have Jumbo. We have Jumbotron.js. So let's go ahead within Jumbotron, create a new folder. We'll call this styles, and we're going to be doing this a lot. So we have Jumbo. Let's pull this out so you can see this, and we have styles. So within styles, be very careful again with the spelling, Jumbotron.js. Cool. So within Jumbotron, let's create an index.js, and that's going to be our component file right here. Pull that all the way back. Okay, so this is where it gets a bit hairy. So compound components, if you haven't seen it, I've got a video on these, and I really like this method. So as you can see here, the breadcrumb source components Jumbotron index.js, and I'm going to import React. So we have React, and then I'm just going to say export default function Jumbotron. I'm just going to copy that because I spell it wrong all the time, and I'm just going to put an empty object in there for now. What's this saying? Oh, default. So we have a Jumbotron, and we want to return I am the Jumbo. We can, you know what, let's just go ahead and get this. Let's go into here, and we can say import. So where we're going to import this from, we're going to say that import Jumbo. Should we say, call it Jumbotron? Yeah. From, let's see where we're at. We'll go up one level. We'll say components, Jumbotron, and you see I don't have to put the index.js because it's just smart enough to know that. Within the Jumbotron, let's just call that component, and let's see, close down this. I am the Jumbo. So there we are, we have the Jumbotron immediately. Perfect. just recalibrate where we're at. We inputted the Jumbotron from here, and we get this right here. Now, this is where, as I mentioned, it can get a bit hairy because I need to introduce